Namaste, everyone. A very, very good day to everyone who has joined us in today's webinar discussion. I am Kalpana, and I will be moderating a discussion with Dr. Snehal Deshpande. Now, for what you may ask, today is World Autism Acceptance Day, the 2nd of April. Now, this year, we're celebrating World Autism Acceptance Week. So it goes from 29th to the 4th April, and today is World Autism Awareness Day. Autism spectrum condition is a lifelong condition that can affect a person's social skills, such as communication and the way they interact with other people. The aim of Autism Acceptance Week, which was also previously known as Awareness Week, is to help more people understand what autism is, as well as the ways it can affect life for autistic people. The theme of this year is inclusion and education for all. And today we wanted to play a little part in having a discussion with Dr. Snehal Deshpande, who is a developmental therapist, on what autism is, what are the causes, what does it mean for people who experience autism, and how can we as individuals and a society include more autism people and bring more joy into their lives and bring more joy into our lives with their presence. So I would like to start by introducing our key speaker. Let me just share my screen. So it is my honor to introduce Dr. Snehal Deshpande. Dr. Snehal, by profession, is a developmental therapist who has received many accolades in her field of work. She owns and leads Sneha, which is an institution dedicated to improving the quality of life for children and their families. She received many awards and recognition for her dedicated work. Dr. Sneha Deshpande is passionate about spiritual well-being and actively drives the CME initiative for healthcare professionals across India. She is an SME expert for HFN signature programs like Vow to Wow, Union of Hearts, Joyful Parenting, and Beautiful Beginnings. Dr. Snehal, it is my pleasure to welcome you here today for our conversation on autism and much more. Yeah, we're so glad to have you.
Thank you, Kalpana, for a very, very kind introduction and having included me today on a day which is so dear to me, because day in and day out, especially from the day I can say pandemic started, there have been children and families who have increasingly come to me for help, seeking help to deal with this condition, which is called as ASD, or autism spectrum disorder. And I'm really glad that as Heartfulness Wellness, or through Heartfulness Wellness, we are celebrating and spreading awareness of this condition amongst our own people. Thank you, Kalpana.
Thank you. I would love to start my first question to you, Dr. Snehal, with what do you mean by autism? And, what is autism spectrum disorder, which I think a lot of us really want to know more on. What is autism spectrum disorder? What are some signs of this disorder? And why is today very significant for us to celebrate?
So, very frankly speaking, there was a lot of haze, or the people feel that autism is this and autism is that. So let me clear out one thing, that autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder. So we have two things. Neuro means brain, and development means it includes the development of a child. So when the confusion started, and there were many conditions mimicking autism, or looking at how autism really was, and that's the reason the American Psychiatric Association now has come up with DSM-5 criteria for people and children with ASD. And first thing is, of course, as the parents come to me, ye baat nahi karta hai na? They don't speak. They don't look at eye to eye with me. So there is no interaction, shared interaction, which individuals, children with autism have with their parents or with other people. They seemingly are in the world of their own and they're seemingly happy in that world of their own. They are very restricted interests, and if these interests are seen, they are repetitive. So you also see some behaviors in them, like maybe hand flapping, maybe stimming, maybe sometimes head banging. So there are repetitive behaviors, there are restricted interests, and there are symptoms and signs which affect their ability to function not only with their parents. So parents definitely are the first people who see or look at the signs, but also they cannot play with other children, and they cannot go to school with other children because they do not want to communicate or they don't want to connect. So why is it known as a spectrum? Spectrum is like an umbrella because there is a wide variation in the type and severity of what is seen in each individual. Okay, so it is not that autism is restricted to one particular race or maybe one particular country or one type of people. It is universally there. So I would like to share a slide, Kalpana. Let me see if I can do that. Just give me a second. So that is a slide which says the color which I've worn today is blue. So blue is a color for autism awareness. And that is something which each one can do on this day, that we can, from 2nd to 4th of April, we can at least wear blue. It is very important that we spread awareness about this condition, because the earlier it is picked up, the better it is for any individual to come out of the symptoms. You know, we have to develop sort of coping strategies for these individuals to come out of the symptoms what they are showing. So that is, I think, in a nutshell. If I've answered it rightly, if I'm not, please let me know.
No, definitely, definitely. Thank you. So what caught on for me is the word neurodevelopmental, right? So my next question would be, what are the causes of autism? Why does it happen? And is it solely genetic, or is it also developmental over one's forming years of life? Could you throw some light on that, Dr. Sneha?
Yeah, so this is a very, very interesting question. There are many, many different types of conditions which cause autism. So, by itself, if you see, autism exists by itself, or it can be a part of epilepsy, as we say, or epileptic encephalopathies, as we see in early childhood. It can be a part of many syndromes which can develop genetically. And more so, what we see today is virtual autism. So there's a big article and a lot of awareness was tried by uh, by the media of late to look at this virtual autism. So basically, when you're looking at the single most factor which I look at in autism is the difficulty or the inability of the child to connect. So when you're seeing that we don't connect, with what do we connect? Okay, so suppose it's a very typical history. You know, every single family gives me this history. In I've become, it's become like, okay, I know that when when there is a complaint which the family signs in for an appointment that my child is not speaking, I know what the history is going to be. So usually parents are working parents, they are young, they are very involved in their careers, and because of the pandemic everyone has been on the laptop. So the most easy thing for which a couple or which a family can give to a child is a mobile, isn't it? Easy. So it's, I'm sitting here and my child comes in and says, "Hello, mama, I want to," and then my boss is talking something. I say, "You hold this for some time." So that's how things start, and children become addicted to the stupid mobile. And then they start, and in fact, I've seen one of my 1.5-year-olds going to YouTube and tracking down the song which he wanted to listen. So children are so adept in using this stupid mobile, wherein their primary occupation, all of us have an occupation. You're a health psychologist, I'm a therapist. We all have our occupations which we go to, attend to. And do you know what is the primary occupation of a child? Guess it? Yes, it is play.
Yeah. Play.
And families don't realize it, parents, and I it's a very I implore, it's sort of a begging to parents, please let the child play. Please let the child connect with his toys, connect with the most important toy in his life, that is his mother, his parents. And when that connection happens, automatically the child learns to use his feelings, learns to connect with his emotions, which in autism is a missing component. So that is, I think, I hope I've answered. There are many different
Definitely.
types,
Yeah.
many different reasons. The pathological reasons can come in from syndromes, from genetics, from epilepsy, but there are other sick conditions, and these are the children who walk in with these conditions. Of course, they start with this. Then later on, we have a multidisciplinary approach, which we'll talk in a little bit later. Okay.
Yes, yes. Just adding to what you just shared, Dr. Sneha, could you elucidate a little bit more on why and how does technology really stunt, or how does it really contribute to autism? And how has the pandemic, and of course you already covered this before in the previous answer, but could you speak more on how and why it's really making this more difficult? And when we're looking at the increased rates of autism and the intensity of autism, could you throw light on the role of the pandemic and technology a little bit more for us?
So, Kalpana, we have to understand that as human beings, we have this very interesting organ with us, and that is our brain. And we as caregivers, whether we are therapists, whether we are parents, whether we are a society, we are in a sort of caregivers of the brain. We are protectors of the brain. And everything what happens in the first 5 years of life is brain development. Underline that, put it into inverted commas, it is brain development. And second, whatever we do when a child is born, from the time the child is conceived, is up to the first 5 years, is brain care. Brain care. That is how impactful every action, every word, every connection is, that whatever we do is going to affect the development in the brain. So brain has something what we call as mirror neurons. So it is like mirroring. If I'm seeing what is there, the brain immediately sort of reflects back and a connection is made. So, and it is like what it is seen. So if it is Peppa Pig, I know from what the kids come to me and they start talking, hello, I know what they are looking. And I ask the mother, is this the cartoon your child has been watching? So she says, yes, this is Peppa Pig, or it may be Chota Bheem, or it may be whatever. I know the names of the cartoons because of the kids now. So that's how it is. The mirror neurons mirror, and the kids look at the mobile and the mirror neurons pick up Peppa Pig, pick up Doraemon, pick up Beam, and it's all okay. And that's the reason, Kalpana, it is said that languages need to be learned early. So in the Indian tradition, we have Gita Upadesh. Heartfulness Wellness is running a program for children to look at Gita Upadesh, the Sanskrit shlokas. So there has been a study done that early childhood learning of Sanskrit shlokas has a very profound impact on development of connectivity within the brain. And that's how important brain development is. If you have been through this tables, if not, we have been through these tables. So we used to sit in the evening 7 o'clock and say 2 ones are 2, 2 twos are 4, right up till 20. And the brain has an immense capacity to just replicate what it sees, what it hears, and speak out. So be careful next time when you talk to your toddler, use good words and connect. Be kind, be loving.
This reminds me of those kids that, spill the secrets of the parents unknowingly. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. I wanted to ask you, since you're a developmental therapist yourself and you have truckloads of experience in this field, what are some challenges that you personally face when it comes to treating, your kids who come with autism? And this can be of any kind. It can be with the kid themselves or with the people around them, of any kind. Yeah.
Yeah, you said it right. I would say more than treating, I love to play with children. And the basic problem, or the hitchkichahat, as we say, hichki lagti hai, is with the parents, because number one, they don't want to accept anything what is told to them. The moment they walk into my cabin, they want me to say, because they've been through the team, some of them come directly. Now references have become more direct, and they want to avoid going to a neurophysician. So some of them go through a speech therapist, because boli nahi aati hai, speech nahi aata hai, so they go to a speech therapist. And there are 4 stages, Kalpana, what we see as therapists. They come to me for that action, the tip of the pyramid, and they want their child to immediately start speaking within 3 to 4 sessions, or maybe even 10 sessions. So the first thing I always tell every single family who comes to me is, most of them are tensed, and because of the pandemic we all have become tensed. We have not connected with people, and so we have lost that social connect, and that stress affects directly our amygdala, which puts us into a state of flight, fright, freeze. You know that, right? Being a from the background of neurosciences. So this flight, fright, flight actually is the base of everything, and that forms your arousal. That looks at how your arousal is the level of alertness. So if we become hyper alert, and children with autism are hyper alert, so it's
Just a second, Dr. Snehal, we can't hear you. I think the headphones may have lost connection.
Can you hear me now?
Perfect. Yes, please go
Okay.
ahead.
So technical glitches. See, this was a connection problem. So that's exactly what happens in a disconnection. But if that disconnection is happening because of the parents going to work and the child is left alone at home, then that level of anxiety, as I said, the base level increases. The anxiety is sky high. Then the second level is attention. So the child faces difficulties with attention. The third level is the level of affect, whereas my expressions, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm surprised, all these come in, and the last is the action. So unless the first 3 layers are taken care of, and I face this problem day in and day out with the parents, they always want the action. Who doesn't want action in the picture? Bollywood, Hollywood, action is the base, but we are, the front face is action. पीछे बहुत सारा होता है. So the back end is something which we really need to work out. So that workout is what I feel is something which we need. And therapy is not, whether it is behavioral therapy, whether it is sensory integration therapy, therapy is not the only thing what is going to help the child. It is inclusion, as the theme goes today, including the child in everything. Playing a very simple game, like I tell them, take a dupatta and say, hey, we go up and down, and round and round. So including everyone in the family as a part of that game, that is something which I find a big, big, big problem. Third is, they don't want to tell the world or to show the world that the child, of course, I accept it. But if you say that my child is gifted, my child is really very awesome, and that awesomeness is something I'm there to discover along with him. Let us walk the road together. This is something I expect parents and caregivers. With children, once I connect with them, I'm always easy. So I don't find any hitchkicharts with the children. I find the hitchkichat with the society, with the parents, and with people around.
Thank you for sharing that. I think we're going to be getting into the other people, people around the child later as this conversation goes. But just building off of what you shared about the layers at which it goes in the final stage is the action. What are some preventative measures we can take at any point just to ensure that these kind of either developmental delays or things like conditions like autism, we minimize the risk of it? What are some preventative things we can do?
So, number one, Kalpana, I would always say prevention starts much before the birth. It starts when the woman conceives. And it's important that stress should not be there. I mean, the mother has to be joyful, happy. She has to be in a state of receiving, of feeling that playfulness, that joy within herself, that bundle of joy is with her. So when mothers start feeling this, then only I think that connection builds up. So understanding that development starts right at the time when conception happens is very important. And going through the stages with a good program like what Heartfulness Wellness offers, the beautiful beginnings for couples who want to go through conception. So, because we have lost the joint family structure, we don't have elders to guide us, and that is where we don't have, many women don't cannot go to their mother's house because they live in different cities. The husband is working, or maybe like a city like Bombay, Bangalore, the girl is staying there, and if her mother's house is maybe in France or maybe in North India, she cannot jump out and go, because many of the women, because they are not looking at their own selves, have physical issues during pregnancy. So again, she is at home alone, thinking of all things what can come to her. So she should be surrounded with lot of love, lot of care. That is the preconception part of it. After the child is born, and of course doing testing, Kalpana, it's a very important thing for everyone to understand, that testing is very important. Preconception, conception, going through the pregnancy and post pregnancy, they should follow up with a developmental team. Can be a pediatrician, it can be a developmental therapist, to look at the developmental milestones in the child. That is very important. So outside countries, I think milestones are looked at very, they scrutinize each development. And in countries, developmental countries, developing countries like India, we need to make it a policy decision to look at the developmental milestones. And I was talking to a few people some months back that we really need to implement this at a policy level, that every child should be looked at development, basic things. And it is not about whether my child can sit or whether my child can stand. Most of the people say that. हम तो pediatrician के पास गए थे. They made my child sit on the table and they saw the child can sit and child can stand. So what the physiotherapist does, the physiotherapist sees, or an occupational therapist sees how they do it. So it is not about the milestone achievement, it is how the milestone has been achieved. So he or she may be sitting in W, maybe put to sit, he or she may miss crawling, which is a very important milestone for people to write. And we understand that a lot of proximal development aids are distal development. So how development happens? A very good checkup, at least in 0 to 3, as it is known as in USA. In India also, 0 to 3 should be a very important age where we put the children through these developmental checklists. And where once we find that there is a problem or the child is not attaining the milestone, what happens? Can you tell me what happens when a child does not smile or does not crawl? What happens in the house?
Everyone starts to panic, I think.
They don't panic.
Oh, they don't.
They don't.
Oh.
They don't. They turn around and they say, "Are, why you're concerned?" Even our kids also, like you also talk. You also walk late. मेरे चाची का बुआ का something walk late, spoken late. So parents and grandparents always want to run away from the situation and think very nicely that everything will happen. We don't have to worry. Everything will settle down. ये तो development की बात है. So that is one big challenge with our society, which we face, that people feel and they believe falsely that changes will happen. It is not that changes won't happen, but if you're seeing a delay or an atypical development or a aberration in development or the development going in another way, then I think you should look at it. It's like we give so much importance to plants, right? Now, suppose you see something different on a plant, won't it worry you? So if you see something like that, or you're painting your house whitewashing your house, and suddenly you get up in the morning and you see a red streak there, won't it worry you? It worries you, right? So it should worry us when we see these signs in children, the red flags, as we call as therapists, but it doesn't worry our dear parents, and they go around in a rigmarole and come to us. The perfect age they come to us is 2, because the child wants admission into the school. Then it comes, madam, ye baat nahi kar raha, he's not speaking. How do I put him to school? What were you doing all these years? So we felt he would speak. We kept waiting and watching. So this wait and watch is something which we should really, really stop. The moment you see a child who has a developmental, the developmental checklist, so the woman should be very aware, the father should be aware that this is what we need to go through. So parenting is a responsibility. It is as or more important than your projects in the office, because this is going to create destiny for all of us, for the world. and we have to be really very, very responsible citizens.
That sentence of, parenting is a responsibility, and it's as important as your projects at work. I don't know, it's a very, again, it goes around, right? Like your children are as important as your work, but something about the way you put that really impacted me. And thank you for throwing light on that. Building off of what you shared, Dr. Snehal, about how physiotherapists see how the child is making certain movements, how the child is behaving. What are some, number one, what are some treatments, or how can people, what are some interventions that people can opt for when treating autism? And could you throw a little bit more light on the role physiotherapy has in this context? Because as many of you may know, Dr. Sneha is also a physiotherapist, developmental therapist, and pediatric physiotherapist. So yeah, could you throw light more on that?
So I'll just show you the slide of the symptoms which I missed, because it'll be really good to see it.
Yes, sure.
So these are the symptoms, as you can see. Some of the kids are hyperactive, they have connection problems, they prefer to be left alone. They have a lot of sensory hypersensitivities and hyposensitivities. They don't know how to play. So these are the basic signs which we can see when the children come to us. So if you say, as a physiotherapist, what I can do, physical therapists work on the physical skills of the children. And why am I calling myself a developmental therapist? So way back when I was starting a budding physiotherapist, autism was not so much on the rise. And slowly, as I deepened my walk, and I walked the way more and more, I saw that children are emerging developmental disorders are ADHD, that is attention deficit and hyperactivity, which is also part of, it can be accompanied. These are playmates. The autism and ADHD walk, the ASD and ADHD walk together. So I saw that this was an emerging field, and that's where I honed myself as a sensory integration therapist. I'm a qualified sensory integration therapist. And then I saw that it is not the children, it is the parents. So I need to understand where the root is. So I went and did my connections and attachment certification. And that's where I saw and I understood very deeply what James Bowlby had told us in 1950s, that it is a circle of security, which is very, very important for a child. The child actually needs his parents, his caregivers. We are a part of that security circle to make them feel okay, we are all taking care of them. And even if their parents, parents may or may not be there at home. Like I lost my father very early, but my system was such that my neighbors who are uh, staying one block below, and they really took care of me. They actually nurtured me. So nurturing is the responsibility of all of us once there's a child. Okay, so this is where I say that a physiotherapist, a developmental therapist, an occupational therapist, a clinical psychologist, a neurophysician, a speech therapist, a nutritionist, endocrinologist, because a lot of kids have endocrine issues, growth issues. So these are the part of the team of who look at kids with ASD or autism spectrum disorder. And we give therapies, which we start with is sensory integration, because to look at the 4 A's, need to look at where they're hyper and hyposensitive. Second, we start playing with them. And I tell the parents, just lock and key, put the therapies in lock and key. First thing is be kind, be loving, and be human. I think that being human is something which we really, and we don't understand. We just, Salman Khan t-shirts, being human. We don't understand what it is being human. Being human is being a lot of just being love and kindness. And that is something which I think Heartfulness is spreading to the world across. We should really practice that kindness and love. So this is the main thing. Other things follow suit. And empathy. I think the big word which I would say is empathy, because people don't understand that we need to, again, we all should understand this, that we need to have empathy to develop connections.
Thank you. Thank you for that again. My next question is, right now, so far we were talking about children a lot, right? And we also very well aware that adult autism is also it also exists, and it is very much an issue then as well. Would you like to explain, like, one question I have when it comes to adult autism is it something that emerges like later on in life as a child enters their teens or a young adult, or does it carry forward from childhood as well? So what is adult autism
So
and is
sorry to interrupt you because I'm so eager to answer this question. The diagnosis of autism happens between 3 to 5, so it's an early onset diagnosis. Many people calmly put it under the, you know, cane basket and say, "I can't see it; it's not existing." So adults, children with these problems, so suppose he is having, and we all know that as working professionals that many of the kids with ASD are highly gifted. We have Asperger's, individuals with Asperger's syndrome, highly cognitively there. So it is not that kids have problems here, kids have problems in connecting. So as they grow into adults, they keep remaining off the world. They don't want to connect, they don't want to form relationships, they won't even give eye contact. So next time you see an individual who's not giving you eye contact, just look at the other signs and symptoms. They don't give you eye contact, they will look somewhere else and they'll talk. So this could be one of the signs which you could track adult autism with. Second is they have these fidgety behaviors. They keep twiddling, either twiddling. So there is an coexistence of or comorbid symptoms which you see in psychology, which we would put, and these are seen in adulthood as a part of the entire spectrum. So I would just show you a slide again, and it would be very helpful to understand that these are the signs which are seen in cases of adult autism. So you see them nervous, biting. They may not even feel pain, or they may feel extreme pain. There is a lot of frustration, difficulty in communication. They have sleep issues, they have anxiety issues, they have a lot of aggression within them. They destroy, or they bang things, they throw things, they harm themselves. They may say that I have a headache. They have sensitivities, as I said, nutritional deficiencies, problems with their GI tract. GI tract is something which is seen in children as well as in adults. And as I said, they may have head banging. Now, coming to this interesting case which I had seen years back. So I say I'm a developmental therapist and I say I'm a pediatric therapist. So one of the psychiatrists from my hospital sent a case to me. She called me and she said, I'm sending a child and a patient to you. I said, okay, his age is 26. I was like, really? I don't take adults. So she said, no one has been able to handle him and you're supposed to take care of him. See what you can do for him the best, because he's really desperate to get well. So if the individual wants to get well, that's the first step. Your sure sign that everything is going to be fine. So he came and I looked at him and he was not giving me great eye contact. And he told me this, ma'am, I really find it difficult to sit in a boardroom. He was talking, but he could not connect. He was talking like a robo. If you have seen this movie, The Beautiful Mind, or if you have seen Sheldon, you will understand what autism is, right? And that's what they are. It is not that they cannot connect, communicate, but they are not with feelings. They lack that empathy. So he said, I have broken relationships. I have 3 broken relationships. I cannot form any connect with anyone. And people feel I'm a psychotic, I'm a neurotic. I keep biting my nails and breaking my pencils. So I was very shy as a pediatric therapist to really take him, because I had never handled a adult with autism. I did a sensory profile, which we do as a first measure. I did a caregivers, and it was a direct interview with him. So I interviewed him, and I found that he had disturbances in his vestibular system, which is a system of balance, in which a person freezes when he or she makes a movement. So I was very shy to put him on the swing. Now imagine all the kids around and he has to sit on the swing as a 26-year-old man. And he said, you know what, I can offer you treadmill. So it's 1 week down the line, nothing happened. And he came back, madam, kuch farak nahi pad raha hai. So I said, see, your sensory profile shows that you have behavioral, you are hypersensitive in touch, which he did have. And you have also hypersensitivity in here. He said, yes, of course, I tried to take a job with a ship and I could not go ahead because I have this problem with my balance. So I said, can you sit on the swing, please, for me? And he sat and he froze. So I gave him, then I told him, you have to do this with me and walk the way. Please bear with me. He said, I'm ready to do anything. And then started the journey. And within 6 months, Kalpana was very, very fine. And he went back to his job. Medications reduced, and he could really get married and settle down. So that was one beautiful story. And that's why I feel that adults also, if they have problems, so there are many different cases who come that, oh, my son is not getting married. He did get into a relationship and he was aggressive with the girl. He's a chain smoker. So these are things which can affect, and you should raise an eyebrow and say, what is it? Is it just, you know, what are these behaviors? And try to seek the help of therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists. It's okay to seek help when you know that you're going to walk the journey and be okay.
I feel very, very that story and you sharing that. I feel very wholesome in my heart, and it all comes to say that this is not something that we should be looking at, oh, as a problem or as a, oh my God, it's an issue. Of course, it's something that needs attention, it needs concern, but when we look at it as a society, it's important that we see people with autism or people who are special in general with so much joy and inclusion. And I wanted to ask you, just as our final question, what are some ways that we can be more inclusive, welcoming, and joyful around people who have autism or are special in general? And what are some steps we can take as a society, as a whole, or as an organization, or anything? How can we make the world a better place for people with autism?
So it is a very good question and a very deep question what you have asked. And what we can do lots, but we have to first understand what is autism. We need to understand this, unlock the puzzle. And when you unlock the puzzle, it's like if you have played Lego in your childhood, or if you have played puzzles, you know that the moment you lose one part of that puzzle somewhere and you cannot find it, you cannot complete the puzzle. So if you want to complete the puzzle of autism and give them a complete life, a life which is fulfilling, I think the first rule is that we as a society should be joyful and happy. Creating a happy and joyful community wherein we take care of each other is very, very important. And this stems from a beautiful book which I was reading some days back, and it is called as The Neuroscience of Relationships. And I can just show you the slide where it comes from. Why I'm saying it is, the brain is a social organ, as I said, and I was saying that throughout. And it is built through the interactions with others. And we have to understand that we don't exist singly. There is no single human brain. Brains always exist within the networks of other brains. And it is the power of being with others that shapes our brains. If we as a society really, really understand this scientifically proved fact, which is mentioned in the book, The Neuroscience of Human Relationships, Attachment, and a Developing Social Brain, we will definitely walk the journey from wonder to wisdom. It is so important that we retain that spirit of wisdom right in our children, within us, and within the society. If we can cherish and live joy and wonder, I think we will be successful in actually sorting this and unlocking the puzzle and solving it for every individual who comes in our life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sneha. I just wanted to ask right now, just before we kind of wrap up this conversation, is there anything that you would like to share with all of us when it comes to autism in general? Now, this is just an open question for you to share anything that comes up for you.
So I would say that I am happy as a professional, when I look at myself, that I have been able to walk the way and discover the talents in the little ones who come to me. Because if you say that this child has signs of autism, he is an individual who is unique by himself or herself. So I have been really fortunate to discover uniqueness in so many individuals. And if we as a society can discover this uniqueness and not let it go under the cane basket and say, it's unique, but I don't want to look at it. So rediscover that uniqueness. Let the child himself or herself feel comfortable and grow into a human being who is useful to the society. I think that is what I would like to say.
Thank you, Dr. Sneha Deshpande, for joining us today and having this conversation. And on behalf of Heartfulness Wellness, we want to wish everyone a Happy World Autism Awareness Day. I'm not really sure that's something you wish people, but I'm going to take the leap and just wish everyone, because I think it's worth celebrating, and it's worth being so joyful, especially this week. So with that,
Note of caution.
yes.
So there were some. I mean, even I'm going to celebrate it today evening. We have to be careful when we are hosting programs. So because children with autism have hypersensitivities, and look at that aspect when you're holding a program of awareness. What type of awareness? I think a simple awareness program would be sitting with them and connecting with them one to one. That is what would be the success, and including them with ourselves within our society. That would be the best tribute and for this awareness day.
Yes, connecting, that is a word that has been
Yes.
really prominent for me during this entire conversation. And something so basically human is something that can lead to such concerns in someone's lives when they go through the journey of autism. I think connecting is such a major word. And I hope all of us can take so many pieces of wisdom from today's conversation from Dr. Sneha. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you. I hope you have a great day, Dr. Snehal. I hope all of our listeners have a great day. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we look forward to seeing you soon in many upcoming webinars of such nature.
Thank you, Kalpana.
Thank you. Thank you.